After the fall of Sauron, much of Middle-earth breathed with relief. But in the heart of a dwarf, there is always a restlessness, a desire for stone and gold, for things buried deep beneath the earth. For Gimli, son of Glóin, hero of the Fellowship of the Ring, this yearning grew stronger with every passing day. Peace had come to the land, but there was one place that still called to him. The ancient halls of Khazad-dûm, known to most as Moria. Many had perished there in the quest to reclaim it from the darkness, including his cousin Balin. Now the time had come for Gimli to return, not with grief in his heart, but with the hope of restoration. Chapter 1. The Gathering of Friends. A letter had been sent from Minas Tirith to Erebor, written by the steady hand of King Elisar himself. It bore a simple message, and to Gimli, it was a command of honor. My friend, it is said among the dwarves that the time has come to return to Moria. I would not let such a journey pass without the presence of one who knows its halls as Balin did. The dwarves of Erebor prepare for their expedition, and I would ask that you lead them. Gimli set the letter down, his heart stirring with ancient memories. He had once walked those halls as a member of the Fellowship, and what they found there had been death and shadow, Durin's Bane, the Balrog, and the tomb of Balin, son of Fundin. But Gimli was no longer a wandering companion. He was Gimli elf friend, lord of the glittering caves, a warrior with battles won and scars healed. Yet he was also a dwarf. His kin's blood ran deep, and Moria's halls were theirs by right. He knew it must be reclaimed, not just from the darkness, but from the ghosts of its past. I will go, Gimli declared to King Thorin III and Stonehelm, his voice carrying the weight of unspoken promise. Chapter 2. The Descent into Shadow. The journey back to Moria was long and fraught with both excitement and sorrow. Gimli led a party of 50 stout dwarves, all eager to reclaim the ancient kingdom of their forefathers. With him was Dane Ironfoot's son, Borin, a fierce warrior with the same fire in his eyes that had burned in Thorin Oakenshield. Gimli's heart lightened as he remembered the journey he had once taken with his Fellowship friends, Aragorn, Legolas, Frodo, and even Gandalf. But this time no Fellowship walked beside him. This was the work of dwarves, by dwarven hands. The gates of Moria were cracked and overgrown, the once grand entrance now shrouded in quiet desolation. The ancient words still shone faintly upon the stone. Speak, friend, and enter. Durin's crown still glimmers, Borin murmured as they beheld the 7 stars of the inscription. Aye, Gimli replied, his voice low. But there is no welcoming light beyond, only the dark remains. The door creaked open under the force of their combined strength, revealing the familiar abyss beyond. They entered, torches lighting the way, their steps echoing through the endless cold corridors. Chapter 3. Echoes of the Past. Deep within Khazad-dûm, the company found the remains of Balin's colony. The great chamber, once filled with the hammering of forge and anvil, now lay silent. The tomb of Balin stood undisturbed, but a solemn air hung over it. Gimli knelt before it, running his hand over the inscription. Balin, son of Fundin, lord of Moria. I wish you could see what we mean to do here, cousin, Gimli whispered. We will not fail. But it was not only memory that lingered in the depths. There was something else, an eerie stillness that carried the weight of watchful eyes. Gimli had heard rumors of creatures, remnants of the dark days, that still skulked in the shadows of Moria. But it was not fear that held him. His blood stirred with determination. The halls of Durin would not belong to the dark any longer. The dwarves labored, beginning the task of clearing the debris and rot that had overtaken the once glorious halls. For many days they worked tirelessly, slowly restoring the ancient roads and chambers. It was after one of those long days that a sound reached their ears, an echo, faint yet unmistakable, the deep, rhythmic thud of a distant drum. Doom, doom, doom. Chapter 4. The Enemy Below. It was Borin who first voiced what Gimli had long feared. The drums. They sound as they did in the old stories. But these drums were no echo of the past. A malevolent force stirred in the depths. Orcs, those cursed creatures who had overrun Moria, still lingered, biding their time. And they had not forgotten the presence of dwarves in their midst. Late one night, the watchman cried out, "They come!" Out of the darkness, a horde of orcs, twisted and foul, poured from the lower tunnels. Gimli's battle axe was in his hand before the call of alarm had finished ringing. His heart raced as the years fell away, and once again he was in the heat of battle. With a mighty roar, Gimli led the charge, his axe cleaving through the dark tide. For Durin, for Balin! Borin fought at his side, a whirlwind of strength and fury. The dwarves, though outnumbered, fought with the fierce determination of their forefathers. The clash of steel against steel echoed through the chamber, and the once silent halls were filled with the sounds of battle. It was in the deepest of the battle, as Gimli stood atop a pile of slain foes, that a shadow passed over him. Looking up, he saw a towering figure clad in black iron, wielding a hammer the size of a boulder. The orc chieftain. A cruel grin spread across the creature's twisted face, and without a word, it charged. Gimli braced himself, lifting his axe to meet the onslaught. The hammer came down with terrifying force, but Gimli was quick. He sidestepped, bringing his axe crashing into the orc's side. The creature howled in pain, but it was far from defeated. The battle raged on for what seemed like hours. Gimli's arms ached with every swing, but he would not yield. Not here, not now. Chapter 5. The Flame of Durin. Just when it seemed the orc horde would overwhelm them, a light began to glow in the chamber, faint at first, but growing steadily brighter. Gimli turned and saw Borin standing near Durin's stone, a relic of the ancient kings. "The flame of Durin," Borin shouted. "It still burns." In the stone's reflection, a deep inner fire flickered to life. The power of Durin's line, long dormant, seemed to awaken in the stone itself. It was not the blazing fire of destruction, but a guiding light of hope and resilience. With renewed vigor, the dwarves fought back, rallying around the light. The orcs faltered, their numbers thinning under the combined strength of dwarven steel and ancient power. Gimli, with one final swing, brought down the orc chieftain, its body crashing to the ground with a deafening thud. And then there was silence. The battle was over. Chapter 6. The New Kingdom. After the battle, the dwarves gathered around Durin's stone, the flame still burning softly in its depths. Gimli stood before his kin, bloodied but unbroken. "We have reclaimed what is ours," he said, his voice filled with pride. "The halls of Moria shall no longer be a place of death and shadow. From this day forward, they will be a beacon of dwarven strength and honor." The dwarves cheered, their voices echoing through the restored halls. Gimli felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not only avenged the death of his cousin, but had also restored his people's legacy. Moria, once a place of darkness, would rise again. Epilogue. As the years passed, Khazad-dûm was rebuilt, and Gimli, though a leader of his people, would always remember the journey that had brought him there. And sometimes, when the moon was full and the air was still, he would stand by Durin's stone, watching the flame flicker within, knowing that the light of his ancestors would never fade. And in the distance, the soft, rhythmic sound of dwarven hammers and forges could once again be heard in the halls of Moria. For Durin's folk had returned.